good morning, or evening, or afternoon, depending on where it is that you are. Welcome to Ghost Stories from the World with Omen. We're still in Indonesia, you know, doing our thing there, doing our thing, making sure that we have covered all our bases. We're on the third of the ghosts of the top five in Indonesia. Tonight's ghost or creature, fable or tale, mythological beast, or a historical event told in a way to make it seem as if it was supernatural or paranormal. But like I said, tonight's tale is that. Now, if I'm saying this wrong, people, please don't kill me. But the name of it is the Genderuwo. I think I'm saying that right. Now, if I'm not saying it right, once again, like I said, don't kill me. Because, I'm not always going to get everything, perfectly right. But let us dive in to the tale of the Genderuwo. Now, I had a tab up before, but I accidentally closed it. And it was a very brief description of this creature. And what it mentioned, which I found to be interesting, that in the other articles and things that I looked up, it wasn't necessarily mentioned. But it said that it raped the women. It was called the malicious evil creature that raped women. Most of the other accounts that I found out was that it tricks or seduces the women by making them think that they're their lovers or husbands, which made it an extremely interesting thing for me to delve into. Reason being, just like with the Filipino story about the what was that damn thing's name? Whatever it was, the black people or black beast from the trees. Can't remember the name, and I'll remember it later. This one has a very similar sort of connotation where the creature, which is doing bad things, not necessarily killing. And see, it doesn't say much about it killing people. It's usually tricking them and taking something from them that they don't want them to take. And of course, they're spoken of as monsters. But what I'm saying is the link between these two stories is that the creature that they're referring to, not that they're the same creature, but they are black of skin and hairy. Now, knowing that these stories come from such a long time ago, I want people to understand that when these different civilizations, these ancient civilizations, came in contact with one another for the first time, they probably thought of these other, civilizations as not human or monsters or whatever they might have thought. So keep that in mind as I delve into this story. Now, please pardon the grammatical errors because I believe this is translated from whatever language they speak in Indonesia. It may be Javanese. I'm not 100% sure. So there are some grammatical errors. I did read this real quick first. So some stuff I'm not going to read because I don't think it's 100% necessary. But this is an article that I found at the Cryptid Wiki. I left the link in the description if you guys want to take a look at it for yourselves. But let me go ahead and read the description of the Genderuwo. Genderuwo. And let's get some music going. All right. Genderuwo is described generally as a muscular, hairy humanoid with reddish-black skin and bulging eyes. But because of its supernatural ability, it may appear at first as hairy dwarf humanoid, but can transform quickly into gigantic humanoid when approached by a human. It is also said to have the ability to communicate with humans and even transform into human to trick others. It is said that Genderuwo possess magnificent sex drive and hypnotic skill. They seduce women by transforming into their husbands and inhabit the female's uterus to gain sexual satisfaction for both itself and the woman it inhabits. It can even produce human Genderuwo hybrid from this relationship. Because of this, Vice described Genderuwo as great granddaddy of obscure monster erotica genre, which inspired abominations like, I'm not going to say it, but if you click the link in the description, you'll see what they're talking about. Genderuwo is said to be seen all over Java Island. If you asked any Javanese villager, chances are they might have seen one. Genderuwo form colonies on various forests and mountains within Java, but they also can be found individually hiding on huge trees or bamboo forests near human habitation. Just like the other ghosts found in Indonesia, they can also inhabit dark and humid places like abandoned buildings. Sightings. Genderuwo are sighted all over Java, but nobody cared enough to document them, and most people are aware of where they might appear or live and move on with their lives. But some stories still appear on television and internet. Genderuwo is one of the ghosts noted on the D. Jovansh Gieten World by H.A. Van Hien, published in 1897 during the Dutch colonization of Indonesia. Now, some of the pictures that they show here show a person or humanoid creature that looks like a large, in some cases, a large beast that kind of looks like a Bigfoot with tusks. And some of the other pictures depict it as a large, black looking man, but big compared to them, with, big arms and big legs, wearing clothing, which is odd that it's wearing clothing and it's a beast. Loincloth, not like them, more savage looking, sort of like, I don't know, maybe someone from the continent of Africa, perhaps? Maybe. Now, I'm not going to speculate, and I didn't. I did what I always do. I went to the island of Java. Found a villager who was said to be an expert on the Genderuwo. Of course, I was intrigued. If this man knew, well, he could give me answers. And answers is what I sought. So I sought out this man. Found him in a library, reading books. I interrupted him, slammed my hand down on the table, which was rude. It was rude. But I wanted to make a point, and the point was I wanted to know what I wanted to know, and I wanted to know it now. And that's what I said to him. He looked up at me, put his head back in his book. I sat down, frustrated, realizing that my rude behavior wasn't going to get me anywhere. I apologized and told the man, hey, look, I'll sit outside. When you're done, I'll see you there. I sat outside for a minute. It was a very humid day. Thick. Oh, God. I felt like, you know how when you take a shower and it's real steamy and hot and just, it's what it felt like. It felt like somebody had ran the shower on full blast with nothing but hot, scalding, steaming water for like 10 hours straight and just let the bathroom stay closed up. Oh, it's oppressive. I wanted to go back inside where they at least had some fans, but I told the guy I would wait, and I didn't want to be rude again. So I'm sitting there, and I think I must have had like a sudden heat stroke or something. Because all of a sudden, I see looks like a black dude, a big black dude, in a tree, wearing like African headdress of sorts, look like some type of animal fur, and like loincloth. He's just sitting in the tree, kind of like yelling over at this lady who was walking with her husband. I don't know what he was saying, but whatever it was pissed the husband off, or boyfriend, or significant other, whatever, friend with benefits maybe. But anyway, he's mad looking, at least that's what I'm thinking. And he says something back to the guy in the tree, right? Now, like I said, people, I don't know if I was hallucinating at the time or if I really saw what I thought I saw, but as I'm sitting here trying to get my bearings on reality, the old man comes out and taps my shoulder. I look over at him, kind of dazed, confused, and hot. I'm like, look, I'm here to see you about Genderuwo. Stories that I've read. Oh, God, it's hot. It won't make a whole lot of sense. First one I read said murders, raping fiends, dark black beasts. All of them say black, reddish black, hair. But all the pictures I see, they're not hairy everywhere, you know? Kind of reminds me of like Zulu warriors and such. Not that they would have been all the way the fuck over here, but maybe they would have been. But that's not the point, sir. What I'm asking is, what do you know? Because I want to know what you know, so I know what you know, so I can tell others what I know. And then they'll know what I know, that you know what I know that they know. You know what I mean? He looked at me confused. And I was confused, because I had absolutely no idea what I was talking about. I was delirious. The heat was, like I told you, oppressive. It was like somebody had their fucking hot-ass boot on my whole entire body. It was like a giant. You know, like Jack and the Beanstalk? Big giant, mushy, hot foot, sweaty, stepping upon my body, just, But that's enough of how hot it was. Now, I asked the guy what I want to know, and he tells me what I want to know, like I told you. But I didn't tell you what he told me, so I'm going to tell you that now. He said a long time ago, hundreds and hundreds, maybe even thousands of years ago, visitors came to the islands. They were from a land distant, a name that they couldn't pronounce, spoke a language they didn't speak. Now these travelers, they came in peace. At first, they didn't even stay very long, anyway. Long enough to trade, sleep, resupply, and leave. Again on their travels. Second group of them came along, and just like the first, friendly. No problems. But they didn't speak the same language as the first group that came. Same type of skin, same size, not the same language. This confused the people. This confused them. You know, first things first, it confused them that these people were even traveling in the fucking first place. They knew they weren't from anywhere around there. And the description that they were able to discern from the drawings that they made for one another was that they were from very far. And these island people couldn't understand that there was anything else outside of the many islands that they lived on. To them, their world was vast in itself. But I'm getting off track. We're talking about the Genderuwo, right? Exactly. Once again, the settlers. Land. Next group of settlers lands, good people just like the first. So the people when the third group lands has no reason to treat the next group any differently, right? Welcome them in. But this group, well, they don't really want to leave, you know? They don't really want to leave. First things first, the only reason why there's more than one group being sent is because the other groups never returned. And they've been sent to do what the first group and the second group did not do, which is to find this land of gold that they were searching for, and in return with the coordinates to such gold, and with proof. Now, these search parties, of course, were made up mostly of different men that were captured in wars in the countries of their origins. So that is one of the reasons why each group spoke a different language. But anyway, back to this last group. This last group decided they were going to stay, you know. And in doing so, of course, these men had to seek women. And seek women they did. Now, you're probably saying, what makes this group bad and unlike the first two groups? Nothing. The only difference between them and the first two groups is they didn't want to leave. They were afraid. And so when they saw this group of people and these people were friendly and welcoming to them, they figured, well, obviously our people have either been here before or this is just what it is, right? This is just what it's meant to be. Now, of course, they had never seen the people that are on this island before, so they were strange to them, but intriguing. And the fact that they were accepting of them meant to them that they should live amongst them. And live amongst them they did for many, many years. But like I told you, the men had no women of their own. So naturally, they started to take up wives, right? And there were some of the women who told the other women of, you know, these men sexually, right? This intrigued the other women, obviously curious. It would have been the same way had there been women that came with these travelers. The native men would have been interested as well, especially if these women married other men that were single and told these men of these women they married. So, what I started to gather from this tale, prematurely, of course, because I'm just trying to put things together, because this guy is droning on, trust me. The bit of story I told you took him about an hour to tell me, and he wasn't even halfway done. Not even halfway done. It was like a 3-day ordeal with this guy. Anyway, I'm not going to do that to you guys. I'm going to condense it heavily, as I've already been doing. Now, these men that were married to these women, the native women telling the other women about their, time with the men. Well, what do you think happened, folks? These native women were curious. They sought to find out what all the hubbub was about. Now, they would find eligible men. They wouldn't take the men that were married to the women because that would have been wrong. But they did find the single eligible men. And they found out what they wanted to find out. Now, of course, back then, there was no condoms. There's no birth control. And I'm quite sure there was no goddamn pulling out. Hence, the hybrid Genderuwo /humans. Come on now. Nothing but humans can breed with humans. So they must have been humans. And if they were ghosts, as many people try to say in certain stories and refer to them as ghosts, well, then ghosts and human beings can't reproduce. So that blows that part of the story out of the water right there, doesn't it? It does. It does. And it did. For me. I stopped listening to the guy as soon as I heard that shit. I was like, I got it. Here's what happened. A couple of guys got together. Baby's born. Baby's a little bit too brown. Father's wondering what the fuck's going on. Looks at the wife. The wife doesn't want to, tell him what's going on. He'd probably chop her fucking head off. Or at the very least, toss her out of the hut. She doesn't want that. But she doesn't want to tell him who it is. No. She knows if she does that, that could cause problems between the black African travelers that have now settled amongst them and the natives. So rather than do that, she tells her husband that one day she was out walking about, gathering mushrooms or something, who knows what it was, checking the herb crops, the garden maybe. She was tending her garden is what she was doing with a new gardener. But that's not what she told him. She told him a monster came from the trees and hypnotized her. When she awoke, she was not dressed. She thought nothing of it. She just knew that this monster may have torn her clothes from her body. She didn't feel as if she had been violated in any way. This is what she told her husband. She said, so it must be the child of the creature. Now, of course, the husband believed her. He had no reason to think that his wife was fucking around. And it's not like the dude that she fucked was gonna fucking say anything about that shit. So the Genderuwo was born. But it doesn't end there. I know what you're thinking, right? No. It's a monster and it's a ghost. It didn't start that way. Now, upon hearing about this ghost, this Genderuwo, black beast from the trees that seduces the wives of the men, well, husband gathered a search party together. Went down to the village elders. One of the African travelers had become one of the elders since he stayed with the village. And he had his child, whom he had made with his native wife. The man was looking at the elders and this child, and he remembered what the newborn child he had looked like, and it hit him like a ton of bricks. My child is the child of no beast. He is the child of one of these African fucking visitors. Oh, she lied. He returned home quickly. Of course, he didn't tell the elders what he had realized in his mind. No. His wife wanted him to hunt a Genderuwo. Well, he was gonna hunt a Genderuwo. Once he got home, he beat his wife something fucking terrible. Oh, he beat her. He beat her. He beat her. He beat her all about the hut, from one side of it to the next. There was nowhere she could go. It was a pretty small hut. It's not like he was very successful. Not that there was any measure of success. As long as you caught and built, you had. And that's what it was. He just was kind of lazy and didn't feel like building a larger hut than he had built. Or maybe he built it small on purpose so she didn't really have too many places to go when he was whooping her fucking ass. Because that's what he was doing. And she just had a baby. He did not give a shit. He didn't give a shit. Mad as he was, he picks up this baby, wraps it up, puts it in a basket, puts the basket on his back, and says, "Take me to his father," with a rage in his eyes. Oh, he was fucking madder than you could have imagined. She whimpered and she cried. He slapped her. "Take me to his father." Smacked her one more time before she even had a chance to agree to doing what he asked. She said, okay. They found the young man on the side of a riverbank. He was fishing. He saw his love conquest walking towards him with the husband, enraged, carrying the basket. As he walked up closer to the young man, he threw the baby at him. Woof. "Take your fucking child and burn in hell." He revealed a machete. He took the machete from its sheath. He walked closer to the young man, who was looking at him, not knowing why he threw this kid at him in the first place, but why he wanted to kill him. I mean, he had no idea that the woman was married. He was starting to put two and two together, and he realized that things were not going to go well for him at all. The man ran up on him, hit him in his neck, real quick. He hit him right in the artery, spewed blood. He was dead within seconds. The husband still sitting there, enraged. The child now crying. The mother sobbing. Raises the machete once more. Chops the baby's head right off. Places it on the real father's chest. pushes them into the water, looks at his wife, and tells her, "There's your Genderuwo." And then he killed her and pushed her in the water. Now, although the wife was deceitful and adulterous, she didn't deserve to die. She surely didn't deserve to watch her lover and her child die. But that's not all, folks. Because it is then, at that moment, when he slayed her, that the Genderuwo, the true ghost creature of agonizing misery, of trickery, of deceit, of lust, was born. Because it is combined with the soul of a child, the soul of a deceitful yet loving woman, and the soul of an innocent and loving man, it is twisted in its own existence. In its own existence. It takes no joy in anything. Not in raping or seducing. It does so just because it's twisted. It is not murderous, that much it is not. None of them had a malignant bone in their body. Just in love with each other at a time when they should have just said that they were in love with each other and probably would have been okay, but hindsight's 2020. So now when you see the Genderuwo in the trees or wherever you see it, understand it is a combination of a dead child and its mother and the true father. Forever twisted. Now you're probably wondering what happened to the husband. Well, stricken with grief, because he did love his wife. He did love his wife, but it was just the rage and the anger. It was his rage and anger when he killed his wife, realizing that he had killed his wife, which is what fueled the creation of the Genderuwo. He sat there after realizing what it was that he had done as he watched their bodies floating down the river. He felt sad. He knew life would never, it would just never. So he took his own life and he fell into the river along with the other three. So like I said, folks, when you see the Genderuwo, remember, it's a sad tale. But watch your women. Watch your women. Yeah, watch your fucking women. Because it is definitely a seductive creature. But not so for the reasons that you think. I want to thank you for joining me for another episode of Omen G's Stupid... Well, this isn't Omen G's Stupid Scary Stories. No, it's not. Sorry, I confused the two together. This is Ghost Stories from the World with Omen. We have 2 more stops in Malaysia, folks. I might do another one later on today. 2 more ghosts. 2 more tales of either terror or realization that sometimes reality and history are scarier than the ghost stories that we tell ourselves. Oftentimes, real history is scarier than the ghost stories that we tell ourselves. Oh. I want to thank you all for joining me for another ghost story. If you liked the video, give it a like. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, then you probably should, you know. And if you want to be notified when things happen here, well, you know, hit that bell icon and you'll be notified. And remember, men, remember, watch out for the Genderuwo. Or make sure your chick isn't sliding off with somebody that's brown and doing stuff. You know, if you're not brown. Because if you're brown and she slides off with somebody brown, you're not going to know when the baby is born because it'll be brown. But if you're not brown and she's not brown and your baby is brown, well, that Genderuwo's been putting in some fucking work. And you can't have that. Take care of yourselves.